Tim, welcome to Watch What, and thanks for logging on. Today we're looking at the Rolex Oyster Perpetual GMT-Master II 116710 BLNR. That's right, the Dark Knight, the Black and Blue, the Batman, whatever you want to call it, I call it a great fit. You can see it, you can buy it on our website, watchyouwant.com, and if you enjoy these videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Watch You Want Inc. This is just going to be a short overview of the watch because while I've had it before, I wanted to highlight the lug-to-lug measurements and the absolute fit, since I've spoken a lot lately about the fit of various historic and current Rolex models. I wanted to talk a little bit about the 6-digit reference Supercase GMT-Master II, and what better representative than the 2013 star of Bezel World, the Black and Blue. Now you can see on my wrist 6 1/3 inches, 16 centimeters in circumference. It's a nice substantial watch, but not overpowering. It has a big broad case. You can see that the case flanks of the Super case are immensely flared. 48 millimeters lug to lug. It's still rated at 40 like the 5-digit predecessor, but with those extreme case dimensions pushed out really to the limits almost of a cushion case profile, the watch wears quite larger. Now I've often compared these to the 42 millimeter Audemars Royal Oak Offshores, and while that might be true in terms of the wrist area they cover, it's not true in terms of the thickness or the height. Now this one is 12.6 millimeters thick, so it actually cuts a relatively low profile when viewed from the side. It doesn't have a lot of height, doesn't feel like it wants to capsize, and even though it does have a reasonably cantilevered bezel out over the flank of the case, because it's also a little bit conical and it is low in an absolute sense, this is not going to be a challenge to fit underneath a tight sleeve or a dress cuff. Now it's on the GMT-Master II Rolex 78200 bracelet, so we're talking all solid links here as well as solid end links, and also a nice contrasting finish. Now you can see brushed finish on the top, polished on the center links, brushed on the top of the flanking links, and polished on the outer shoulders of the flanking links. There's a good deal of contrast on the 904L steel. Despite the fact that it is all monotone, Rolex gets a lot of mileage out of contrasting finish here, as well as on the case itself. Likewise, the hoods of the lugs brushed, the flanks polished, and of course, a highlight on every contemporary Rolex model, these milled out clasps. Now the milled out clasps really obviate any memory of the old stamped references Rolex used to issue. These all feel spectacular. They look beautiful, and with thoughtful features like the 5mm tool-free Easy Link adjustment, which you can see in action right here, they're quite convenient to resize on the fly if your wrist expands or contracts during activity, hot, cold, or changing weather. Now, naturally, when you close them, you get that sense of the quality inherent. A nice snick, a snap, the tolerances are exceptional, everything's up to par, but the star of the show is the bezel. Now before 2013, Rolex had used a number of color combinations, monotone and two-tone, on their GMT-Master II bezels and GMT-Master predecessor bezels, but they'd never used a combination of black and blue, and this one was all the more special, not just because it was unprecedented, but because it was the first use of blue in Rolex's Cerachrom ceramic. So what you're actually looking at is a bezel insert that takes 40 hours to manufacture, one layer being added after the first. So underneath it's all monotone, and then the second color is added on top. Each of the individual channels for the indices, for the Roman or Arabic numerals I should say, is actually filled with platinum. So what you have is the gorgeous luster of a contrasting metal that's physically sunken into the ceramic bezel, and that is a recipe for durability. What that means is that unlike older anodized aluminum inserts in bezels on sports watches, especially Rolexes, you can't easily scratch down to the base. This is effectively as tough as the sapphire itself, so this watch is going to age well. It's going to look just as good in 2023 and 2033 as in 2013. Now you can see the dial has all the hallmarks of the modern Supercase Rolexes, which is why we call it the Maxi dial. Historically, there have been a lot of different variations on the Maxi dial, but I don't want to go back to the vintage sense of the term. I want to talk about the modern era, where it refers to larger white gold plot indices, applied hour indices in baton and triangular form, as well as the hands, the Mercedes hands at center. All of these are larger than their predecessors in the 5-digit reference. More gold, more superluminova. It's a completely different look. Even at an arm's length, you can tell this is a different treatment because it's more legible. And at night, it pays off doubly so because you have so much more legibility of hands, indices, and all indications thanks to the maxi dial. On top of a lacquered black base, you can see that it's beautifully detailed with thoughtful references to the history of the GMT, and I have to say, a beautifully subtle blue 24-hour hand that almost, but doesn't quite, blend into the background. A date as ever, every GMT Master and Master II has always been chronometer certified, automatic winding, and feature to date from the very beginning of the line in the mid-1950s. And true to form, the Calibre 3186 in this BLNR is chronometer certified. Now the 3186 included two principal refinements over its predecessor reference 3185. First and foremost, it received the Cerachrom blue anti-magnetic Breguet over coil hairspring. Handmade by Rolex in-house, the Cerachrom blue is, like every Breguet over coil, essentially more resistant to positional variation due to different positions on the wrist or on the dresser at night, so it's not going to have timing error to the same extent as a conventional flat hairspring. But more specifically, with the Cerachrom blue, you get a vastly improved anti-magnetic property to the material, so it gets a little bit of the soul of a Milgauss in the case of a GMT. The second major refinement that's worthy of note is the stabilization of the independent hour hands when they are being set independently. Previously, when setting the local hour hand, the 24-hour hand would shake violently as if it wanted to be dislodged from its station. The refinement from the 85 to the 86 is that tendency has been eliminated, so it's a smoother, more premium experience when setting it. Now the power reserve is actually a little bit above the industry standard. If industry standard's 42, these typically will run 48 to 50 hours in between windings. Bidirectional winding, so really no matter how you hold it or shake it, you can't feel that unidirectional wobble that many associate with the unidirectional systems, and while those are just a little bit more efficient, Rolex overcomes that inherent lack of efficiency with Teflon-coated reversing wheels, so you get the smoothness of a bidirectional winder, but with almost all of the efficiency of a unidirectional winder. Immensely shock resistant. Not only do you have a free sprung balance, but you also have a full balance bridge. A 31 jewel movement that is very tough, runs well, runs smooth, runs long, and gives excellent service. It takes everything that was great about the long-running 3185 and makes it just a bit more refined, a bit more durable. And that is Rolex's motto, incremental improvement over time, from the case to the dial to the bezel to the movement itself. You can see all of these refinements in the Rolex GMT-Master II 116710 BLNR, better known as the Black and Blue or the Dark Knight, on our website, Watch You Want.